Hi guys, let's see if I'm coming through here.
Bottom of this bike seltzer has 0 grams of sugar.
Okay. Gonna turn off the 3-phase behind me. I was trying to get things up to a point where I could show you some cool stuff, but didn't have quite enough time. I'm a novice. I've said this before, I'm a novice when it comes to machining because I spent so long fixing my machines up and getting them working that I'm only now learning how to machine. So it's a fun process, but there's a big learning curve. And part of learning how to be a machinist in a CNC world is learning how to do G-code generation and all sorts of fun things. So what I've got here is a little part that I made. Actually, there's another one on the milling machine over there. But what I have here is a small receiver that allows me to put my bearing straight into it. So the bearing goes in, and at the same time, it allows me to still rotate that bearing without hitting the nut. So I had to do a 1/2 inch straight through and then a 5/8 counter bore to allow it to give that bearing a place to rest. So this little tiny thing, what I've done here is drilled through, sorry, it's delayed when I watch the video, so I have to kind of fiddle around and try and get things in frame for everyone. What I did was drilled through my my 1/4 inch shaft here, and this is what goes into my race car, the RC little differential. So this whole thing is mounted on the bottom. This piece of U-channel will be mounted like I have it mounted on this test piece. In here, the worm gear, and then these two little guys are going to be on the side. Let's see if you can see it down here in my lap. Basically, one of these little pieces will be on the one side, and then the other one that's in the vise right there will be on the other, and I'll attach them in here when I get things lined up. I'll have a slot milled in here, and by having a slot milled in there, I'll be able to adjust it up and down as needed, and I'll be able to articulate it this way. But with it being a slot, then I can give minute adjustment to where I need it before I tighten it down and lock it in place. So the one on this side, the one on the other side, and what I'll have is I'll be securely holding my worm gear in place, and then the RC motor is going to go on the end, and the whole thing will then be rigid and held perfectly still, but allow for smooth operation, and this worm gear will spin. Once that's in place, and I have all those little pieces of RC car mounted securely so that they don't go flying off when it spins, then I'll be in business for the furling mechanism. This piece then just gets bolted right onto the bottom of, pardon me, right here. So there's two long 1-foot screws in here. This whole plate comes off, and then it's got the two receiver screws already drilled and tapped for 1/2 13 threads, which is identical to this test piece that I have here. So I'm building everything on this piece of U-channel to serve as the building framework to hold the furling mechanism, and that'll allow me to just basically unscrew. I apologize. Let me move the camera down ever so slightly. See if I can't move it down just a smidge. There we go. Basically, last night I welded up, or this morning I guess it was, welded up some specialized 1/2 13 super short little nuts, and then with a lock washer, I don't want to tighten these down because this is just aluminum and it is grinding on the aluminum, but when I screw that in and make it tight, and then its brother over here, screw that in, make it tight, as soon as I lock them down, that's not going anywhere. And it's held perfectly in place on the bottom, just like that one. So my job is to get this worm gear set up, held in place, get it all adjusted so that it drives smoothly without any binding. It's not grabbing anywhere, it's not too high or too low. It's interesting to me, this worm gear, it has one place that it wants to sit. When you put pressure on it, it holds right there. There's no play, man. It's really locked in. So I'm gonna use that to my advantage and hold that in place with, you know, a nice amount of pressure there from maybe a clamp, gentle clamping pressure or something like that to hold that in place, and then use that to my advantage to set up my little makeshift pillow blocks, so to speak, and get everything adjusted on that little shaft. All right, let me hit some questions here. Wow, we have 7 people watching. See, that's what I get for scheduling something in advance, giving you guys time to actually be here. Hello, Charles. Louisiana, that's maybe a first. That's cool. How much will do test run? Louise, can you be more clear what you're asking? How long until I do a test run? Is that what you're asking? How long it will be? And no, Louise, the blades don't close with centrifugal force. They're gonna close by an actual motor. That's what this is right here. Let me get that and show you guys. It's pretty freaking cool. I had hoped to be further along with this, so I apologize, but everything takes time when you're working by yourself, and you know, I'm just working a day at a time as I have time to do things. So this is my little RC car back end, the motor, and this is a differential joint right here. So when one spins one way, the other side spins the other way. All two-wheel drive vehicles that I know of work on that principle. So what happens is I've got to hold this one still. I'll have to do something in there to hold the one still, but then the other one, it allows me to lock it in. There we go. It allows me to lock it in place like that. So this is going to sit here. I'm going to have it mounted in some sort of little holding unit. I'm sorry, I don't have more hands to hold this, but it's going to be kind of like this. And let me spin it so you guys can see that. It's going to be about like that. The little things I'm machining are going to be on each side. Think of them like pillow blocks to hold the bearings in place. And then I'll have adjustment to adjust them up or down or in or out, because I'll have a V slot in them. And I can adjust them where they need to be. I can adjust where this worm gear is mating with the larger brass gear and get all that held rigidly in place. And then it'll be easy to take this motor here and lock it in place and build a little frame to hold it. I'll just have to build a little frame to hold it securely so that it's in place, and then it's just a matter of putting the electronics in place here to get those where I need them to be. My son and I, because I had him holding things and there were more hands, we tested it last night and it definitely spun, you know, at a pretty much a perfect rate. It was maybe one revolution on the gold or the brass worm gear in, I don't know, 6 seconds, 7 seconds, something like that. I wasn't really counting, I wasn't timing it, but I think it took a good 6 or 7 seconds to make one full revolution. I believe on harmony, to go from a fully open to a fully closed state or vice versa, I think it's going to take probably 3 full revolutions or very close to 3 full revolutions. So that means I could go from a fully opened to a fully closed state in like 15 seconds. Somewhere in there. It might only be like 2.5 revolutions, I'm not sure. Anyway, 140 teeth on the big one if it were a complete circle, but it's only 180, so that's like 70, and I think there's 23 teeth on the little guy, so 70, probably maybe 65 teeth. Yeah, so it's 3 revolutions-ish. 3 revolutions on the little gear makes it go from fully open to fully closed. And I would say it would take it 15 seconds for it to go fully open or fully closed, which is fine. I don't want it to be like really fast, because then I'll just end up ripping things. I want it to be a smooth, controlled opening and a smooth, controlled closing. But it's pretty cool because when I turn this little guy on, I can go one way and I can go the other. And that's exactly what happens then when all the worm gear and everything is held in place. I'll be able to drive the worm gear one direction or the other direction. All right. Hi, Glenn. Local Columbia. You mean Columbia, Pennsylvania, or Columbia somewhere else, like Columbia, South America? Let's see, what else? Really, once I get this mechanism built and get it holding things in place, it's going to be a short step to the next phase. I was thinking about this a lot last night. I believe I'm going to use goop glue. I love goop glue. I use it for all my stuff. I should be endorsed by them. But I'm going to probably do the goop glue around the top edge of my... Actually, I don't want to drop that. If I opened Harmony up and I showed you inside, you would see these furling gears. These gears are, I think, 23 teeth, and they slide right now so that I can get them into place when I'm assembling Harmony. But when I have them where I want, I should be able to take and run the goop glue right around the top edge, and it'll seep down in a tiny bit, but not a lot. The key is, it should hold it rigidly enough to control the furling without too many problems, but if I ever need to disassemble Harmony because something breaks or something's not working right, you get on that, pick at it a little bit, and then with a pair of needle nose pliers you can pull that piece of glue right off, and it should allow me to disassemble Harmony without a lot of effort. Going forward into full production, that's going to be different. In full production, we will be looking at other means to positively attach these furling gears to the shaft, whether that's a key with a keyway slot or something like that. You know, there's a whole bunch of things, but these are engineering decisions and design problems. They're not even problems, they're just questions. And you want to make things in a manner that allows you easy access to replace or maintain parts if they break down, if something needs to be swapped out or switched. You know, there's all sorts of considerations to take into it, but for now, for the prototype, the goop glue is going to work just fine, or at least I'm hoping it will. Oh, Glenn, you were the guy who I got the pallet jack from. Hello. All right, I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I wanted to cover. I'm sorry, I had really hoped that I would have a lot more progress here today, but my hang-up is I'm a novice machinist. So, you know, I made the two little receiver pieces, but I still have to machine the slot into them, and then I've still got to drill the U channel to get those located in the right spot, and then that'll allow me a little bit of adjustment for that whole mechanism, because that's key. That mechanism has to be held rigidly, but it has to be forgiving enough that I can adjust it as needed, up and down, forward, backward, and after giving it some thought, I think the slotted channel on those little pieces is going to be the key to it. So when I put that slot in there and get that machined properly, then I'll be able to finally put that together, and then I need to work on some way to attach the RC motor to that housing. And once I get the RC motor attached, then we're in business, because then I'm just kind of gonna attach and do my best to balance the battery and the motor not mechanics, but the pieces, the motor and the battery have to kind of offset each other from a balance standpoint, so that when it's spinning, it's not all lopsided and, you know, causing vibrations. But once I get things distributed evenly enough that it's balanced fairly well, then I should be able to start looking at the next step, which is building the cart, because the furling mechanism is nothing more than getting that RC electronics on the bottom, securing everything in place, and then gluing my furling gears. Once the furling gears are glued, it'll be able to open and close, and you'll be able to see for the first time Harmony by herself opening and closing as each lobe or each blade pair opens and closes. That'll be a pretty cool demonstration when I show that for the first time. But I'm trying not to get ahead of myself. I'm trying to take it a step at a time and do things carefully and slowly. I always put the offer out there. If people are close by and want to help put things together, contact me, because it's always more fun to tinker together than it is to do things alone. Here is my email address, chris@creatingmore.com. Let's see here. I think that's about it, guys, honestly. I didn't want to get into a big, long and drawn out live stream. I'll set another one up for 6 o'clock tomorrow night. If anyone's out there, does this seem to be a good time slot? Give me some feedback. Write in the comments if you like this time slot. I'm not sure. I do seem to have people from Europe and the European countries logging in to check things out, so I know you guys are like 5 hours ahead, and I apologize. So that's not ideal for you. It's 11 o'clock your time, but I'm not sure if you're on. Charles, I do sometimes refer to Harmony as a she, but only because Harmony is a girl's name, a female name, and I don't know, I'm not sexist or anything, but I think of Harmony as the embodiment of everything that I could ever hope to do with something that's harmonious with the environment. I'm hoping to use recycled plastics for making the scoops, which would be a harmonious effort. It's making clean green energy, which is a harmonious thing. I know everyone rags on me for this, and they're like, what the hell are you talking about? It's a DNA helix. Who cares about that? But it is. It's a freaking helix. Sorry. Go cry on your pillow if you're upset about it. It's a helix. And when I get this thing opened up and it's spinning, you'll see it's a helix. So that looks like DNA, which is a harmonious thing. And, you know, anyone who's sitting there looking at it from the aesthetic realm only is going to say, yeah, that's beautiful. It's a harmonious thing to see it spinning there. If you look down on the top or up from the bottom, it's got yin and yang on it. I mean, you can see it right here. It's yin and yang from the top and bottom, and that's pretty cool too. So, yeah, I refer to it as a female. Some ladies yell at me and rag on me about it, but, you know, they can come have a beer with me and it'll be all better after that. I'm sure people will always find something to complain about. You know, you have to have something to complain about or it's not America, right? Yeah, like a boat. I guess I will probably refer to Harmony as a female more in the future as I go on, and I'm sure as it gets more and more famous, people will really come down on me hard about that, but I don't care. It's fine. You know, the U.S. Navy refers to their ships as female, so I don't know. I can take that heat. Bring it, guys. Bring it. If it's really a problem, bring it. I'm worried about far more things than whether it's a female or a male. I think it's an adorable design. I think it's cute. I think it's super functional. I'm hoping it's efficient because I'm doing a hell of a lot of work. If it turns out that it's not very efficient, that'll suck. But I'm thinking it's going to be. I really, I think it's going to be extremely efficient. And some of the preliminary data that came back from Malaysia was they even built it like all, I won't say wrong, but they didn't understand and do a lot of things the way I would have. And they got phenomenal results in their little wind tunnel testing that they did. They actually built a wind tunnel and 3D printed a little tiny Harmony and did some amazing testing with just limited resources, and the numbers they were getting were extremely good. I'm jealous in some ways because here I am with my big full-size version, but I haven't put it in a wind tunnel yet. I haven't done any testing, so, you know, I don't have data that someone in a foreign country was able to get on my wind turbine, which in some ways it's cool, other ways it's a little sad. But I don't know if my wife knows I just invited a bunch of women to have beer with me. We'll keep that a secret between you guys and myself, okay? Don't tell my wife. That's my son starting up his four-wheeler outside, by the way. All right, any questions? I don't want to keep this long. I know I've done live streams over the past month, and I've done a few videos here and there. You can see where I'm at. I'm putting things together. I'm getting the furling mechanism on the bottom. Is there any questions? Does anyone want to ask something? Everyone's like, when's it available? Is it for sale? No, it's not for sale. I'm still in the prototype stage. So I'm working on it. I'm getting there as quickly as I can, but it's slow. It's slow and steady work because it's just me and I have to, you know, take care of my family first, and then as I have spare time, work on this. I'd like to turn this into a full-time job where I'm doing this, you know, 40, 50 hours a week, whatever, and making it my day job. But for now, it's not my day job. It's what I do when I have spare time and when I can take. Today, I'm taking PTO from work, and tomorrow I have PTO so that I can work on Harmony. It's just the way it is. It's the way it has to be right now. So, questions, fire away. If not, then I'll close things down and we'll keep it to a short 25-minute live chat. That's my wife, by the way, the one who commented from Somehow Healthy. She has her smoothie truck that we just finished up a couple months ago. That took a huge chunk of time away from the Harmony project here, so she can go have a beer with us too, and then you can read her the riot act for holding up the project. Shorter and more frequent updates are good. Okay. All right, well, I'll try and do that, Charles. It's kind of where I was going anyway, so your comment is in line with what I was thinking. If no one else has any questions, then I guess I'll go ahead and sign off. Give it another 10 seconds because I know there's a delay. If you have a question, fire away. If not, we'll keep it under a half hour. I'll schedule another live chat tomorrow at 6 p.m. and hope that I have some really cool stuff to show you. All right. Well, no more questions are coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you to everyone who is watching and following this build and this project, and spread the word because, you know, I'm doing everything I can to help make a difference, make the world a better place, and it's going to take people like you believing in projects like this to finally make a difference. I don't want to make companies rich. I don't want to make corporations rich. I don't want to make the powers that be any more powerful, any more rich than they are. I want to put the power into our hands, into your neighbors, your parents, your children's hands, and give them the ability to put this in their front yard or on their roof or on their house so that they can reduce their electric bills, so that they're helping to decentralize the electrical grid around the world. And, you know, let's change the paradigm. Why do we always have to do things the way it was before? Just because you've got these ugly power lines coming in and there's the big, huge wind turbines out by the coast, who gives a crap about that stuff? If we can generate what we need with 2 or 3 of these and a solar installation on our house, that'd be great, you know? Why do I need some big, ugly thing out there on the coast when I've got something really cool and neat right here on my home? Couple it with a battery bank, and now you've just made your house resistant to thunderstorms and power loss and brownouts and blackouts. I mean, you know, depending on how big your battery bank is, you could have 2 or 3 days worth of backup power. So there's a lot of really cool things that can be done here, but we have to start somewhere. We have to begin taking those steps together, and that's what I'm trying to do with the Harmony Project. So take care. Thank you all for joining, and have a good evening.